Have you ever had one of those days when you wanted a do-over? A day when you wanted to take a mulligan and start all over again? I remember a guy once asking me in my office, I've had a bad decade. There are so many things I wish I could go back and do differently. Whether it is a day or a decade, there are times when we wish we could back up and really do things differently, choose different words to speak, act in a different way, handle a relationship better. Sometimes we just want to do life differently. Well, I think the wishing goes deeper than just doing differently. More than anything, I think we want to be different. Now, our doing, our actions arise out of and reveal our being, who we are, how we see ourselves, one another, and the world. Being and doing are intimately connected. So wishing we could do things differently, and the deeper wish then to be a different person, a different creation, is really the wish for the first day. Think about some of your first days. The first day you attended school, or the first day of a new school year. The first day as a married person. The first day as a parent. The first day of that vocation or job you had been waiting for and working toward. The first day you took seriously, as a matter of life and death, your faith. First days are filled with light. They hold the promise of all that might be. There is an excitement, newness, innocence to first days. They are vibrant, alive, full of dreams and possibilities. I imagine that is how God looked at the first day in the beginning. No harsh words had yet been spoken. No feelings had been hurt. No relationships had been broken. There was not yet any guilt or regret. Rather, there was only light. The light of life, of love, of promise and hope. The light of God. And it was good. The first day is always a day of creation. People I meet with will sometimes say, I wish I could go back and married couples will sometimes say, we want to go back to that day when our marriage was. They are looking for the first day. Now, we cannot go back to the way it was. However, first day wishing is not really at its heart about turning back time. Rather, it's about becoming a new creation, a new being. And so ultimately, it is about returning to the waters of Jesus' baptism. Every time we return to the baptismal waters, we return to the first day. Creation and baptism, they cannot be separated. They are intimately connected, and they mirror each other. Listen to what Genesis says and then to what how St. Mark describes Jesus' baptism. In the beginning, the wind of God swept over the face of the waters. At Jesus' baptism, the wind, the Spirit of God, descended on Jesus as he came up out of the water. In the beginning, God said, "Let there be light." In Jesus' baptism, God said, "You are my Son, the beloved." In the beginning, God saw that the light was good. In Jesus' baptism, God was well pleased. Creation, Jesus' baptism, are God's gifts to humanity. Really, everything God does for humanity, for you, for me. Jesus did not need to be baptized. We needed him to be baptized. The baptismal water did not somehow sanctify Jesus. No, he sanctified the baptismal water. His baptism is not the means by which we identify with him, but the means by which he identifies with us. Our baptism allows us to participate in his baptism. I'll tell you, I can't remember my actual baptism. I was about 2 months old, but it took place in August of 1962 at a church that no longer exists, St. Michael's in Montebello. Can you remember your baptism? Do you know when and where it took place? Who the participants were? Through Jesus, our humanity was present and baptized in his baptism and made manifest, incarnate, when we were individually baptized. Our humanity was the humanity upon which the Spirit descended. Our humanity was the humanity to whom the Father spoke and with whom he was well pleased. Our humanity then was recreated in Jesus' baptism. It is the first day. In baptism, we really are a new creation, a new being. Every time we return to the baptismal waters, whether like today to baptize sweet Erin and welcome her into the body of Christ, or any time we pass that font or a stoop and put our finger in the holy water, every time we renew the baptismal covenant, we again claim our identity in Jesus as beloved sons and daughters of God. Every time we return to the baptismal waters, God again manifests and reveals himself, the divine, in humanity, in you, in me, in Aaron. Every time we return to the baptismal waters, we return to that first day of light, of love and life, and the promise of all that might be. Whatever your life has been or might be now, the baptismal waters await you. Even if, like me, you were baptized 52 years ago, they await you this day. So come, return to the water. Let the waters of God's life wash over you and rid you of fear, resentment, despair, Immerse yourself in the water of God's love. Splash about in the waters of God's mercy and forgiveness. Swim through the pool of God's grace. Dive deep into the gift of having been created in the image and likeness of God. Float and drift in the stillness of God's peace. And always remember, these are the waters of new birth.